Okay, guys, welcome to the weekly update for the Fife Property Show. This is the property market over the last week, which is the 16th of May itself to the 22nd of May, which is yesterday. Now, we'll look at all the instructions, the number of instructions come on by region against the number of instructions sold in each region, and then we'll come to an assessment. There's a lot to go through here, guys. We'll also give you an update about what's coming on to the market, what's actually sold to the market, what's happening so far. I'll be covering as well, there's two articles in this vlog. I'll be briefly covering, will the Fife property market continue to boom? There's a post in here already, a link in this post that you can click on and you can watch our show yesterday. You could listen to the podcast or you could read the article, but I'll briefly cover it to give you key information about what's going on in the market and why now's the time to sell, but don't be too worried about the time to buy. You'll still get an opportunity to get in there and find your dream home. So I'll cover that as well. And one of the actually interesting articles, which might not be so prominent just now, is back on the market. And I'll talk about that. Should you be changing a estate agent? Pretty controversial, but some people obviously don't get the service they wanted in the first place or they didn't agree to. So again, I'll talk about that as well. And we've got a viewer's question this week. He's written into me just today, and I'll answer that question as well from a viewer in Glenrothes. Okay, so let's look at the numbers for last week. And it's quite interesting reading. It looks like there's an oversupply coming into the market. Now, if you look at Cooper, there's 19 instructed. There's 15 actually sold and gone under offer. There's an oversupply there. But I'll tell you why this isn't going to signal anytime soon that the property market's dipping. And I'll cover that in a wee minute. East Neuk, 4 came on and 3 were sold. St Andrews, 11 came on. Now, this is across every single estate agent in the area and the whole of Fife. It lists on Rightmove. So it's a good representation of what's coming on and what's actually been sold in numbers-wise. And the reason behind this. St Andrews, 11 came on, 9 sold. Levenmouth, 7 came on and 11 sold. Levenmouth still outperforming every single week. But I got a funny feeling Levenmouth are at good price points, hence the reason why it's quite buoyant as well. Dunfermline, 60 have come onto the market, 30 have only sold. There's a wee bit of an oversupply there, about 30 more, 50% more that week. Glenrothes, 14 come on and 15 sold. Glenrothes still outperforming. Kirkcaldy, 41 come on and 36 sold. So overall, 156 came onto the market in the last week, up for sale, and 126 actually sold and went under offer. Now, that means there's an oversupply of 30 in that week, but I wouldn't give that a signal to say the market is going to start easing off in pricing. Because if you watched our show yesterday, you'll realise that there's currently just under 500 properties on the market for sale right across Fife out of 370,000 people. Now, when you think about it, only 500 properties available. Quite a lot of these people will be looking for homes, and they've only got 500 properties to choose from. 12 months ago, there was 1,200 properties on the market, so there's 1,200. So it shows you how the supply is still restricted. So even though this says that there's 30 more properties come onto the market than there's been sold, we've still got an undersupply of properties on the market just now, waiting to be sold. 10 years ago, there was 3,000 properties that were on the market 10 years ago at this point in time. So it just shows you where we are in terms of the supply and demand. We're still under supply, and there's a huge amount of demand still, people chasing. So let's talk about an update. Quick update. I'll grab a wee bit of paper here. Quick update what's happened with ourselves. We've had properties in St Monans, and we've had properties in Newborough, another property in St Monans, and another property in Connacher, actually all gone under offer this week. Some of them were actually gone from pre-portal listings, and some of them were actually closing dates. So again, pre-portal means it comes onto the market on our social media channels first, and somebody's actually made an offer they couldn't refuse. Therefore, by the time it actually gets to a website, it's sold. Okay, closing date for next week is for 11 Denhead in Kennaway. So if you're interested in 11 Denhead in Kennaway, please get a viewing as quick as you can. It's a beautiful property inside, finished a real good standard, and it's going to be popular. Hence the reason why we've set a closing date. New listings in Strathmiglo and High Street Strathmiglo 8 to 5. New listing in Bonnygate Cooper, number 25A. We also have new properties coming on this week. So watch out for pre-portals for a beautiful Victorian townhouse in Links Road in Leven. Just 100 yards round the corner is the seaside, the Fife Coastal Path and the beach. And Winram Place in St Andrews, a lovely 2-bedroom property in there as well. It will be popular. It's at a great price point. It's going to be coming on it. Concluded this week. Congratulations to the purchasers of Lilac Bank and Methil. Hope you enjoy your home and you're safe and well in there. And 10 Shore Street in Anstruther. Now, that was the hairdressers originally, and that has now been bought by a retailer. So let me tell you a wee bit more about what's going to be happening at 10 Shore Street in Anstruther on the front. The purchaser has advised me that they're changing the business into a shellfish shop, and it's called Shellfish Shack. Had to slow down a bit to say that. It's a bit of a tongue twister for me. Selling all types of shellfish in a natural state and as appetizers. And I believe they're reopening the premises in 8 weeks' time once they've had their refurbishment. And they are now in the process of developing their website, and they think their refurbishment and business site should be ready in 6 to 8 weeks. So if you want to look out for that one, that'll be coming on soon. Shellfish shop in St Anstruther on the Shore Street, and that'll be at number 10 where the hairdressers was before. So it's great to see retail going back into these shops and small businesses and people working in the local economy and contributing towards the local economy, and the money stays in the local economy. That's probably the most important things to these communities. So let me take you through this week. So we had, will the Fife property market continue to boom? This is quite an interesting one. So there are signs that the Fife housing market is sat on good foundations, yet one key hazard could still scupper this market. And let me talk to you about that. Now, the key indicators here in the Fife property market, and as I said, that you can watch the show in its full entirety here, is property prices. This is quite interesting. Property prices have gone to record levels. And many newspapers have reported this. Now, the Halifax has reported a 6.5% growth in the last 12 months, right across the UK. Nationwide, 7.1%. And the government's own land registry has actually reported 8.6%. Okay, so there's nothing new here, you might think, to that. But actually, as Fife homeowners, and remember since 2009, when they dropped 19% in the credit crunch, and remember in the early 1990s when they dropped 40% over a 4-year period from 1990 onwards, house prices in the last 12 months have actually mystified us, as most economists have actually predicted that they would drop. In actual fact, they've actually gone up in real terms as a result. So Fife properties values have actually gone up 10.3% higher than a year ago. And right across the board, on average, in the regions, every single region has gone up round about 11.4% in value. The only one that actually went up a wee bit less than that, which equaled everything out to the 10.3%, is actually Dunfermline at 9.4%. So that then gave the average of 10.3% overall. So what's the key indicators that are driving that market? And why we don't really need to worry. So let me let you take a look at the average house prices. So this is the rate of ratio of UK average house prices against average earnings. Now, at this point in time, we know right across the UK that in the credit crunch, this ratio was sitting here. I'll show you where we are in the credit crunch, and this number right here. So 2007, 2008, this was sitting at 8.8%. So in other words, you had to earn 8.8% in times your salary, or get money to that effect, to buy a property. And that was right across the UK. And then it crashed, the property market. Therefore, property prices crashed, and therefore earnings, you were able to buy a property for 6.8%. And then it started to 6.8 times, and then it started to climb again, as we can see going up here, and until we've got to 2020. So 2020 is actually showing now that we're sitting at an average of 8.8% coming on to 8.8 times, coming on to 9 times almost. Now, this is not a worry because this is right across the UK, but the key indicator here is when you look at Fife itself, Fife has actually had a ratio in these comparable times of 3 times the average earnings in 2000, rising to 5.5 in the credit crunch, dropping to 4.3 a year later, and now it currently stands at 4.9. So it's nothing to really worry about for first-time buyers because you can still get 4.5 times your current salary. So if on average it's 4.9 times your current salary to get average value property, they're right across Fife. Therefore, you should be in a position still to be able to purchase, or anybody should still be able to purchase a property at a reasonable rate and also get a reasonable return. In terms of that. So, I mean, are we heading for another crash? Well, possibly not. And the clear indicator to that, it demonstrates it here, is the percentage of first-time buyers going on mortgage payments. So, again, we look at this key indicator here. So this is the lifeblood of the property market, the first-time buyers. And the percentage of income that goes on mortgage payments for first-time buyers on the long-term average is 33%. So you can see it here. See this average right across the board here. Okay. Now, when the property crash came along in 1989, therefore, there you could see that was sitting about 54%. So in other words, a first-time buyer had to pay 54% of their average earnings to buy a property on with their mortgage payments. So 54% of their income went on mortgage payments. So where does that leave us as well? So in 2008, the property crash, it went to, see, so it dropped when that crash came in for these 4 years. It dropped to a significant percentage, and then it climbed up again in the credit crunch to 49%. But today, it actually stands at 31%. So which means, and that's because really record low interest rates has actually stimulated that and allowed that to happen. So we've still got a lot of mileage left in the UK, or the Fife and the UK property purchase market for buying properties. So I don't think it's anything really to worry about in terms of numbers, in terms of where we're going, because I don't actually think there's a property crash on the horizon as yet. And it's something we'd probably cover later on in successive programs. But as I said, in the one that we did on here, and we did the live broadcast for an hour, we discussed it in great detail. So if you want to listen to the podcast or watch that show, please feel free to do that. Now, question of the week. We had a gentleman from Glenrothes. Now, he's 32, and he's from Glenrothes. And he's currently living with his parents. And his issue is not only have house prices risen, availability seems to be too low just now. And he has a lack of a deposit to cause, and it's basically, giving great difficulty in terms of getting on the market for the first time. How are we supposed to get a house when the lady on the radio, so he must have been listening to the radio yesterday, and somebody must have said some people are buying houses without even viewing them. So what is the chance to do that? Well, the best advice I can give you is actually speak to a mortgage broker. Now, speak to a mortgage broker who is not tied. Don't speak to your bank. Your bank's only tied to your bank, to be honest. So the best person to speak to is an independent mortgage broker. We have independent mortgage brokers, but you'll probably know someone that's an independent mortgage broker. I can certainly refer you if you want. But go to an independent mortgage broker, because they'll have the whole of the market. They'll be able to look at every single bank possible in every single building society, and they'll be able to see which one will give you the highest loan to value, because that's probably what you're after, with the least deposit. Now, I do know that 95% mortgages are back in place, and I do know you would have to probably be able to match that with your income in order to get the right property. And it might mean taking that first step on a lower value property in order just to get you on the ladder in the beginning. Now, I would predict, and I'm predicting, and I have said in the property show yesterday, that I think flats and apartments at the lower end, which were not seen as desirable in the last couple of years because first-time buyers could basically buy houses, and they've now gone out of their reach, they will be the properties, it will rise exponentially in terms of prices and proportionally better than what semi-detached and terrace and detached houses will in the next couple of years, predominantly because they'll be more affordable to a larger market. So that's why they'll start to rise up in prices quicker. So buying a flat or an apartment at a lower value might actually stand you in good stead, because that might increase in value quicker as opposed to the terraced houses, which might actually allow you to then upgrade in a couple of years' time. So that's probably my best advice to yourself in terms of where you want to go with that. One of the other articles that we spoke about, and we've not actually spoken about, I actually just put it on a blog, and give you a quick look at this now. It's back on the market. Can change an estate agent. Restart your move. I'll leave you to read that at your own leisure. It is a 4-minute read, but it does go through some key points about, is it worth changing your estate agent if they can't actually sell your property? And believe it or not, there's some people out there that can't get the property sold. Especially when you think about the logic of this. If there's 8% of properties coming onto the market right out throughout St Andrews, and that's been every single time since not January this year, but January the previous year, so only 8% of the properties have been sold, then 20% of properties are actually not being sold over that period, so they're still sitting there. And for the reason I don't know, because I've not seen them and we've not had them. We've sold every single one of our properties, but there is a concern for some people. What do I do? Where do I go? What happens next? So we do talk about fact-finding time. First things in having a honest, straightforward, detailed chat with your current agent, and a bit more questions what to ask them. I've actually advised people on how to sell their house, even though they're with another agent, and they've subsequently made these changes and sold them. I'm more than happy for them, because it's allowed them to buy something from us. Also, we talk about taking stock, what information you've gathered, what you should now have a clear picture of why your home isn't selling. So it means decision time, and exploring these opportunities. Then again, exploring the alternatives is another subject we want to talk about, and then inviting and interviewing and instructing possibly a new agent if that's what you want to do. You might find you want to stick with your existing agent because overall you've realised they've actually been doing work in the background. There's a lot of the times that a lot of people don't realise, think it's just money for old rope, what estate agents do, but there is a lot of work and technique and negotiating and marketing. It goes on in the background in order to get the result you want at the end of selling your property, and ultimately that means more money in your pocket. That's what we're there for. Otherwise, there's no point in using us. Just go into doorsteps, pay your £99, go on to Rightmove prime location in Zoopla, and it'll sell itself. Well, it doesn't really. You could lose thousands by doing that. It's not a great strategy. But some people do want to do that because they're convinced that all estate agents get the same results. If you want positive proof of that, I'm happy to share that information with you, but you need to message me because I don't really like broadcasting that and what we do. Okay, and then relaunching for success as well. So that's a nice article you could read for yourself at your own leisure. Finally, just a quick one before I sign off here. You've got the 60-second instant valuation tool we've got on our website. It's in the link of this post. Just click on it, put the information in, where your house is, the address, if it's a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, a 4-bedroom, detached, or anything else you want to give us information on. It will then, the algorithm will then work out the value of your property based on property prices in the areas we've been getting recently. Remember, it's not historic, it's recent as well. So it's all the ones that you don't know about yet. It takes into account and it gives you that information. So it's an up-to-date valuation of your property. So it gives you 3 different valuations. It gives you the top valuation. In other words, your property is in pristine condition, new bathroom, new kitchen, decorated carpets all the way throughout, landscape gardens, brilliant curb appeal, and things like that. So that's the top end. It also gives you the bottom end, which is, things are a bit tired, needing a bit of work done on the property, and then it'll also give you the midpoint. So you could be somewhere in between there as well. And and that is a good valuation to get you started. Now, you may not want to sell your house, but you may want to plan for the future, and it's a great tool to do that. It gives you an insight into what the current value of your property is, so you can then plan things like insurance for your property. You could also plan for the future if you want to release money and go and do something else with that. You also want to possibly, you maybe realise that your house is worth a lot more than you think, and you're not sitting in your dream home, and then you decide to yourself, why am I sitting here if I'm not in my dream home? These people, an estate agent or anybody else, can find me that dream home before anyone else, and I could have my dream home. That could be a possibility for some people. You do not realise what your home is worth until you actually put that information in. Even properties that were valued 6 months or a year ago are worth significantly more now because of the changing market and circumstances and what's happened since we've come out of lockdown. It is a significant change in value. And it could be that significant that you decide now's the time to sell. But I'll leave that to your own judgment. You can click on that link, get an instant valuation, and that's it. And if anybody else has got any more questions, please feel free to message us direct on this post. And until next time and next week, guys, I'm Jim Parker for Fife Properties TV.